Thanks, Stebin, for taking a random social media question and coming on. I'm sure you get asked a lot to partake in different things, and you have a interesting life, and I can see all your photos behind you. And I'm a huge fan of the Kudu grill. I've had it now for a little over a year, and still have my receipt and everything. Had no reason to return it whatsoever. and and yeah, I used it yesterday. Cooked a tri-tip steak and kind of did a use kind of smoked it for about an hour and then just seared it and kind of tasted like a roast. And so
Yeah,
yeah, thanks for coming on.
absolutely. Happy to be here.
Yeah. Can you tell me a little bit about what you currently do? Because I also noticed like usually entrepreneurs have their main thing and then a few other things. So can you tell me a little bit, kind of explain who you are?
Sure. Yeah, so kind of my life behind me. I kind of carry it with me where I go. I I really am into a variety of things, but they all revolve around my life that I spent in South Africa with my wife. I wasn't there for a very long time, even though I've been back probably twice a year up until this pandemic slowed that down. But you know, I've got several businesses. One of them that we just discussed is the Kudu Grill business. I have another business called Classic Overland. That's a business that I rebuild Land Rover Defenders
Oh,
in
cool.
South Africa. We bring them into the United States, and that's a big part of what I do. And then we have started a charcoal business in South Africa that is tied into the Kudu Grill, but it's a separate business, and it's a real if anything, it's a sustainability movement for me, and the fact that we've got a lot of issues with charcoal around the world, and
Absolutely.
in South Africa, we're able to do something really unique, and I'm happy to talk to you about that because I think that it all kind of ties together. So
Is that something different than like the wood that you buy on the
it's
website?
it's from the wood.
Got it.
So
Okay.
South Africa is essentially divided, has a continental divide kind of on one third of the east coast. So you have off the Indian Ocean, you have a very tropical area. That's where you find a lot of the animals around Kruger National Park, areas like that. And then there's this area called the escarpment, which is essentially a high plateau that then moves west towards the Atlantic Ocean, and that's really coming up from Antarctica, and it's really cold and dry,
Hmm.
and that's an area that you have a totally different biome kind of ecology, and the ecosystem there is where this acacia is flourishing, but it's invasive, and so we not only are trying to keep the savannas open and the way they're supposed to be, but the byproduct of removing this forestation that's not supposed to be there is incredible charcoal. And it's really, I would put it up against anything coming up out of South America or
Yeah.
out of Ukraine or anywhere else. So it's a great story, and it has to happen. Like we are having record numbers of cheetah and all the animals down the food pyramid from there that are being impacted by this because these trees aren't supposed to be there, and they're invasive. And what's happening is the leopards and other predators that hunt in wooded, forested areas think it's their home. They think they're supposed to be there.
Hmm.
So when they're there, they dominate the area. They're wiping out cheetah cubs and everything else. And then next thing you know, um, it's a total imbalance. So we're in the process of restoring that. We're excited to bring that to the United States because I think that Americans do gravitate to that sort of story if they can find something that not only is an excellent product but also is doing good for the world. Then we're happy to be a part of that, and so it's pretty exciting.
Yeah, I agree. At least for me, when it comes to cooking and products, I want something that's a good quality and that stands for something. I think you're seeing that more and more. And that's one of the reasons why I got the whole Kudu system, because I like the story behind it, and I know it's coming from somewhere that has good intentions and the quality is really good. And I do the same for my food, and I try to do any product that we're doing. And I think you're seeing that more and more just in all trying to in more products. So at least now I look at where things are made more than I ever did this year.
Yeah.
Whether that has to do with the pandemic or anything like that. It's just, I think I'm more just subconscious of things. And you notice things that I've had that weren't made either in the US or Europe or certain areas, or just caring for the product, they don't last very long. So,
Right.
but yeah, I'm excited to try the charcoal. I'll for sure get it, because I have been using lump charcoal, and you have to have high fire and high heat. So can you tell me a little bit about how you discovered, or obviously open flame cooking is very big in South Africa and around the world, honestly. Like really open flame cooking is a global thing. US, you don't see it as much.
That's right.
So can you tell me a little bit about that?
Sure. So when my wife and I were dating, I went over to South Africa for the first time. It's probably 2014. Um, and her brother is a farmer. They have a family farm. They've had it for generations, about 60 miles west off the Indian Ocean. They're cattle and corn farmers. You would almost think you were in the Texas plains when you were there. A little bit greener than Texas, but I was going to dinner with a lot of her. She's got a big family. She's got a brother and three sisters, and they're all married with kids. And so this was like kind of the first cookout. And he came out with this grill that he had made from a rusted plow disc. And he had it. He had like a little bar on it and a small grill, and it wasn't very big. And I had come from America, and I had my big green egg, and I had my Gen Air gas grill, and I'd always cooked, but this was like new to me. And so he walks up, he throws this thing together, and I'm looking around like there's you know 10 adults and 11 kids. And I'm like, what is this thing? And he just looked at me and he said, it's the African TV. And I said, what do you mean? He said, yeah. He goes, I'm going to light it, and you're going to sit here and watch it for the next 5 hours. And it was an experience that stuck with me. And I realized that from the time he lit that open system and cooked on it for the next few hours, people would come and go, and the kids would play, and they'd run in and they'd grab something to eat and take off. And the whole evening took place around the grill. And I was accustomed to, in America, someone was grilling. They were, quote unquote, manning the grill, hence the term. But that's a singular thing. It's not communal. It's not plural. Not everybody hangs out around a big green egg. There's no reason to, unless you just want to look at an egg. But this was open, and you could see the fire. You could hear the sizzle. You could be a part of what was going on. And everybody was talking about various things and different things they had cooked and how their day was. And it just kind of blew me away. And I thought that was kind of an isolated event until I turned around and moved there. And everywhere I went, there was this sort of open system. It was very different than what he had, but nonetheless, it was this style of cooking. And as I began to really think about why is my interaction and my experience so different, it all came back to this braai and this open fire. And it's in our bones. I mean, we're attracted to fire and food. It was the very first thing that caused us as human beings to come together. And actually, the fact that we could control fire actually had us stop moving and to settle down and to start building communities with one another. And that the earliest evidence of that is actually in South Africa as well. There's this cave in the Northern Cape called Wonderwork, and it's got the oldest evidence of open fire cooking. It's over 1 million years old.
Wow.
So, you hear about some places in China. There's one in Israel that's about 750,000 years old, but those were open, and there was no evidence that that possibly wasn't started by accident, whether it was lightning or something else. But this cave was totally isolated, and there was food remnants, and it's amazing the story there. So South Africa has a lot to claim, including the first grill out, the first time to barbecue. So it's
Yeah,
pretty cool.
absolutely. No, my mother's from South America. She's from Paraguay, and my father, who's from Texas, lived in Latin America for 15 plus years and he's in the rice business, so he continues to travel there and work there. And so I grew up, seeing grilling, open flame cooking, South American style.
Sure.
So but it's also, it could be a lot of work. And what I like about it just makes it easier to do open flame cooking. That's what I tell people is, like, if you want to do open flame or not have use a fire pit or anything like that, like, the Kudu is your best option. It makes open flame cooking easier. And instead of getting these big setups that you could do, which I eventually would like to do or something, do a really big, fire pit type setup. But anytime you do it, you feel like you have to cook like insane amount of food to get
Yeah.
at.
Well, that's kind of the thing, right? Like,
Yeah.
the Kudu, my intent was to bring this experience that I had in South Africa to every backyard in America.
Hmm.
And everything that was open fire in America was either at a restaurant or a big resort or somewhere that they were going to bury a cow in a field and put
Right.
charcoal over it. Like, it's like these insane things that you saw on the Food Network.
Yeah.
That's just not practical.
It's
Like,
not.
stop it. Like, that's cool, but I don't want to create something that is going to say, "Wow, that's really badass," but I could never do that.
Hmm.
Instead, I wanted to bring something that anybody could do and do it at a price point that was incredibly competitive. And I think that's what was unique about the Kudu, is that certainly you can, cook for a lot of people on a weekend and have a big open fire deal. But at the same time, if it's a Tuesday night and the kids need to eat and do their homework and go to bed, you can go out and throw, some chicken breast on the grill and do some vegetables in like under 45 minutes, and,
Yeah.
and you're done. And so that was a really big part of what I wanted to bring to America, especially experiencing similar issues culturally and politically. And there was so much division, and that's such a huge part of South Africa's history. And when I would hear them talk about the fact that their essentially their July the 4th is September 24th,
Hmm.
and they call it National Braai Day or Heritage Day. And basically that's, the government saying today we put down, we're a country of 11 official national languages, and we're going to put down our differences, and we're all going to come together, and we're just going to cook out. We're going to have a beer. We're going to throw a steak on the grill, and we're going to come together. And that was some real motivation for me to say, well, gosh, America certainly needs that. And I think people that have bought into the Kudu and they own the Kudu, I mean, these are people that love to cook, and they've got lots of grills. And I bet I've had so many folks reach out to me and they're like, Stebin, I love the Kudu, but I just want to tell you, I've owned, this grill, that grill. I own 6 different grills, and you could put them all together, and I've not had as many conversations around them together that I've had around the Kudu. And that's what it's all about. I mean, we design our products and we build everything that we do around the experience,
Hmm.
because ultimately that's where the value is. I mean, we're going to create something that cooks amazing food, and it's going to do it really efficiently and really well. But we want it to be something that no other grill does, and that is involve everybody. And so that's why it is so fun.
Yeah. I think I love sharing on social media cooking. I think that's the only thing I like to share now. Uh, and I think every weekend when I do it, I know there was a one point I have about 4 new Kudu owners. One guy, my friend in California, just bought it. He's like, you, because of your Instagram post, I bought one. And
Wow.
he's asking me like for tips and what charcoal to use and flame. I was like, join the Facebook group, you'll find all those answers. But so I think you really have like a organic kind of, organic reach, because I don't have that crazy amount of followers, but it only takes, a few people, and people love cooking and want to see new things, especially in America that loves food, and you can get food in 5 minutes,
That's right.
and the tip of your fingers. And yeah, I think that's like the number. I get more attraction to anything food related on the grill than I do for, my other, businesses that I do.
Right.
And
Well,
so,
that's awesome, and thank you for sharing that. I mean, that is part of what Kudu Nation is designed to do. For starters, as a company, we don't touch that. That is for the members and the owners to share, and it be authentic and not driven by some purpose of the company to try to lead to sales. It's literally led by owners, and in there we not only get incredible feedback on what they like and what they don't like, or what issues they may be having with the product or an accessory, but on top of it, you get the same sort of inspirational sharing moment that someone has with their family, or it shows their daughter turning a hamburger, or it shows their son building the fire, and it's like, that's it right there. Like, we are detached from our cell phones, we are detached from our work, we are literally sitting down and turning everything off just for therapy purposes. And as we've seen the world slow down and take note of trying to figure out what's going on with this pandemic, Kudu has been a big part of people's life, and we've been somewhat of a go-to for finding ways to entertain themselves and to get creative.
100%.
And they're at home and they're wanting to how do we make the most of this? And I think the Kudu has contributed to that, and we're seeing it, and it's really exciting.
Yeah, I every weekend I make sure I usually will grill out Friday, Saturday, Sunday, at least 2 days of the week. And during the week I tried to do, because I live close to Austin, and so on the weekends everything is packed. And so if I try to do anything touristy or a swimming hole or anything, I do it during the week. And then on the weekends, that's where I kind of stay home and grill and have, family over. And yeah, we enjoy it. It's a conversation starter. People are always wondering. And I think I'm still surprised how open flame, a lot of Americans never really saw this kind of style of cooking.
They didn't, and I think Weber and its presence in America, I mean, it's an iconic product, it's an
Mm-hmm.
iconic grill, had a lot to do with that. And there are certain efficiencies created with the lid in American cooking, but there's, from a scientific approach, they're not as efficient as you would think. And from an experiential approach, which is why we do a lot of what we do, it's kind of a death nail. But when I was with my brother-in-laws in South Africa, they were like, you Americans, it's the funniest thing when it comes to grilling. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And he's like, well, you cover up everything we want to see.
I know. Yeah.
They're like, if you're smoking, fine. We get it. You got to capture that smoke. That's what we do. We have lids for that. But everything else, man, why are you doing this? And that really kind of struck a chord with me, because I do think smokers and lid cooking devices have their purposes, and we provide that within the Kudu. And then there are some things that are just specifically for smoking that Kudu will not probably ever do. But that's okay, because we want to be either the primary grill for someone at home, or that perfect second or third grill that does something completely different than what you currently have. And we know we provide that, because cooking over a big fire pit is a mess. I mean, for starters, it takes a lot of
Yeah.
wood to get the temperature high enough. So that takes a lot of time. And then secondly, you're going to be bending over. And so if you're setting up something for the weekend, like you said, some sort of big cook, maybe you got a, half lamb or something really awesome, that's super cool. But it's just not realistic for a lot of people. So we wanted to come in with a Weber size product. And what's unique about the Bry, and for folks that don't know, this is an open fire cooker that's got a fire base that is flat. And if you look at most grills, they're all rounded at the bottom. And so what that causes is a singular temperature to emit from that grill, whereas the Kudu's flat. So not only can you manage temperature by raising the cooking surfaces up and down, but you can also bank your coals in a particular area to manage temperature too. And that makes it super easy once you understand that this is just a charcoal cooker. Now, can you just start off with firewood and cook, get it down to coals? Absolutely. And we have people that take this product around the country. They take it camping, they take it, RVing, all these things, because they can use wood to start their grill, and then they're cooking over embers a little bit later, and then they're going back to wood for a fire pit. And so those things we really wanted to kind of design around a large segment of the population that wasn't accustomed to open fire cooking, like you said, but could also access it in a way that's pretty benign and easy to get started. And once they get into how it's working and understanding the way that it's supposed to operate, I think they find it really, really quite easy. But it takes time. There's a learning curve with every grill. And so, that's just part of the process, and it's really part of the fun.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I always tell people, make sure you have something, or get used to of, handling the fire in the grill, and make sure you wear either gloves or towels or something like that.
Sure.
And I just love the flavor. I love the taste. And I've always thought American barbecue, especially, I've always thought it was okay. Like, I like really smoked ribs, or, I think barbecue chicken probably is my favorite. Brisket is, but the whole injecting apple juice or injecting a whole bunch of stuff, I appreciate the trying to figure out new ways and new things. But, some of my favorite meals overseas were just very basic, high quality meats, salt, pepper, lemon, and cooked in a very good temperature.
Well, it's all about the authenticity these days. Like, I think people are tired of being tricked. I think they're tired of having products put in front of them that they really don't know their origin or what they're made of. And we're becoming real conscious of that. And what the Kudu does, not only does it help with an authentic approach to the experience of cooking, but it's the way it imparts smoke and flavor is just like you described. It's like salt and pepper. It's like a good seasoning or a rub, or and I say that in that it elevates the vegetables or the fish or the steak without overpowering it. And lots of times, you can manufacture flavor with a good and some early prep work with brine and injecting and all that. And the Kudu, and I kind of learned this from Francis Mallman, who everybody, if you're into open fire cooking, should get his books, look at his style. He is, the king of open fire. He always talks about that smoke should only complement the meat, not overpower it, or the vegetables. That it should be just another thing to enhance the flavor. And because it's so acrid and pungent, you don't need a lot of it. If it's passing through the meat, if it's passing through your food, if you're capturing some of that with the smoker lid, then you're going to get a elevated experience, an authentic experience that really takes that tri-tip that you cook this weekend to the next level. But it's still all about the tri-tip. It's not about the smoke. And I think that's what the Kudu really does a great job at.
So are you fully do you find yourself liking South Africa culture more than American? Because there's I've traveled to over 40 countries, and I tell everyone like I have my favorite and everything. And I didn't, a lot of people ask like, why don't you, live in Istanbul or London or Beirut, Lebanon, or different parts of Iraq that I really like in northern Iraq and the Kurdish areas. But I always come back home to where my family and friends are. And so
That's right.
I was curious what you thought about that.
Yeah, so it's funny. I mean, I live in a town here in Middle Georgia that I was born and raised. Um, I've had tons of successes and failures in this town, and I've got a great network of family and friends here. And I think it's one of those grass is always greener, on the other side. So I remember vividly living in South Africa and at times wishing I was back home. And then when I'm here, I'm wanting to be there. My
Yeah.
wife came to America after college. She went to the University of Pretoria and then came to America and never left. In fact, this next year she will have lived in America longer than she's lived in South Africa. So
Wow.
she is one of those folks that really appreciates this country and the freedoms and the opportunities. And I think that this will always be home to us, but that we are transient folks. We like to travel, and it's not just to South Africa. I mean, you mentioned all the places that you want to go. It's part of the experience, and the entrepreneurial businesses that I'm building are. It's not just for America, and it's not just for us to share with America. Obviously, Land Rover Defenders, we sell them all over the world. The grill, ultimately, that will be a position we take, but the opportunity right now is just here, and it's to create this base of followers and members that have helped us refine the product, improve the product, to establish this product as something that everybody knows about. I mean, we want it to be something that's very familiar with the cooking world, and people that love to, on a Saturday, you get the conversation is with children like, hey, what are we going to do on the Kudu this weekend?
Hmm.
That's where we want to take it, and it's going to start here in this country. And so I do find that I want to travel a lot more, and I find myself at times when I feel a little stuck being negative about America or the American system or the American way, but it's incredible, and it's something that we shouldn't take for granted. And I think that if we can bring some of the wonderful things from other parts of the world back here and,
Absolutely.
and contribute to this, then that's a great thing. And so yeah, I do, but I do find like, especially so. I'm about to be finished up with my level one field guide certification in South Africa. So I'll be actually a licensed guide for
Oh,
safaris
that's
and
cool.
things of that nature. And so I'm dying to
Yeah.
finish up that piece of my education. And it's something that I'm motivated by. Like you, I love photography. I love to take people from America to South Africa and take them on authentic safaris and take them into Cape Town, into the history and the true stories and the less touristy areas, and share with them an amazing country that certainly has its challenges, but it's just an incredible place.
Yeah.
Kind of following you a little bit. Your story kind of reminds me. Are you familiar with Dan Eldon?
I know
You
that
know,
name. Yeah.
yeah. So he was a British-born Kenyan photojournalist. He actually was killed in Somalia.
Yep.
Wrote these amazing books about it's all about the destination and life as a safari, and his story out of Africa into photojournalism, into exposing the true essence of the cultures around the world and making it very authentic is certainly appreciated by me. And I really love what you guys are doing, and I commend you on that.
Yeah, it's I mean I read all his work and a lot of the South African, conflict. I've looked at all those photos in Somalia, and I've been quite a few places in Africa. I was there towards the end of Uganda, and then we did some stuff in Somalia, and did some stuff in Ivory Coast, and a lot of my stuff was in Middle East and Iraq especially. I think this might be the first year since 2010 I won't be able to go to Iraq, which is kind of bummer because I have so many friends there. And and so we're all kind of, a lot of the journalists were kind of like in limbo right now, and we're looking for other work. And just
Sure.
because we would take the risk to go flying everywhere, but it just comes down to, doesn't make sense. And we're always trying to figure out, like, if the story, I think you're going to see a shift in journalism. I think you're going to see more independent stories and not rely so much on editorial news to just commission us. I think we're finding out that we want to own our own brand and own our stories and figure out other ways of making money, whether it's taking a part-time job or working for another company. I think
Right.
that's kind of how I see it now, that I want to do quality over quantity. So if I do like 6 or 10 really good stories a year, that's totally fine because I'm investing into that. And
Sure.
then if I'm making income in another way, then that's fine. I think you're going to start seeing that, and that's kind of how I'll start approaching it. But yeah, I've been lucky enough to go travel a lot of unique places, and a lot of that involved open flame cooking and
Right.
street food. And in northern Iraq, you would like, I think you would really dig the street food scene there and all the shish kebabs and use. I don't want to know what kind of grills they're using because I have seen grills made in certain parts that look like they took from a construction site.
Right. Sure.
And Latapa is really good. And so yeah, it's I've never actually been to South Africa. I have quite a few. I know a few BBC journalists based there, and so then and they love it. And I'm wondering, with the COVID, I'm assuming South Africa has a big tourism industry.
That's
Has
massive.
has the pandemic hurt it in that, or?
Yeah, it's decimated it. They just last week they moved from level 3 to level 2, and even at level 2 under their guidelines, it's obviously a designation that they're using within their country. It doesn't even still allow for tourism flights in from other
Wow.
countries. I'm totally isolated. My wife is totally removed from her family. They're trying to open up the economy again, but it's been a real challenge. But done a good job of managing the pandemic down there. So, but they rely a lot on tourism and international investment, and so hopefully we'll all ease back into some normalcy here towards the end of the year.
What's their favorite type of meat that they like to eat? Is it
Yeah,
everything
it,
seafood? Yeah,
it's yeah, it's lamb. You see a
yeah.
lot of lamb and beef. They're kind of like well, it depends. I shouldn't say that. Let's talk about the Afrikaner slash British
Right, right.
subsect of South Africa is very meat and potatoes oriented with a lot of lamb, incredible lamb that is like
Yeah, you won't even
so
notice the difference.
so crazy. Like it's like you can't even believe. Like you try to go buy some good lamb here in
No
America,
way. Yeah.
and it's really expensive. And so I took that for granted, missing that. And then you've got a huge Malayan and Indian influence that's very seafood driven. That's really nice. You have the spice route that came through Cape Town and had a major influence in the Bokop district of Cape Town, and so you get a lot of seafood and unique spices and things of that nature there, and then you've got some other cultures that are very authentic in they haven't changed the way that they do their mealy and their pop, and it's that corn sustenance food that is
Hmm.
not healthy for them, but that's what they have. And yeah, so you get a variety of food down in South Africa. It's really excellent.
No, yeah, that's on one of my bucket lists, is to go to South Africa and just to eat the food.
Yeah,
And maybe conquer my fears of sharks. I don't know, the ocean. Anytime you see a BBC documentary or Planet Earth and you see these monster sharks in the water, I'm like, I don't know. I'll take bullets and a war zone front line, but if I see an animal or anything like that, that's a whole other story for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So where we lived, Seal Island, where they do air jaws, that the
Hmm.
breach come out off of Seal Island. That was, you could see it off in the distance from where we lived. And then in between you and them was about 200 surfers. And I always was like, it's crazy. And they were out there, they could care less about what was happening another, quarter mile out to the ocean. So,
I don't know how they do it. I mean, I know it's really rare and I know the statistics and everything, but I don't want to
yeah.
be one of those small numbers.
Well, if you plan a trip, we'd love to host you. We'd love to, take you to some really interesting places and let you see some things that not everybody gets to see. And we spend a lot of time in various parts of South Africa. It's really big. People don't understand that it's,
Oh yeah.
from the north end to the south end. It's like, from the Great Lakes to Houston, Texas. It's a big area, and so. And it's so diverse, which is what makes it so neat, is that you travel 1 hour and you're in desert, or you travel 1 hour and you're in the mountains and ocean, and then you travel another hour and you're in the forest. And that's what makes it such a very interesting place to visit.
Is your so you're saying you restore defenders?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Um, how did you get into that? Is this just a whole bunch of defenders in South Africa, or
Well, there are. I
yeah?
mean, there are a lot, and it's really difficult to develop that business, and it's taken me some time. But when I lived there, my wife worked and I didn't, and it was more of a sabbatical for me, if anything, to get away and clear my head. And I purchased a old used Land Rover Defender, actually in this area called Hans Bay, which is where all the shark cages. Like I pulled up to the Defender, and there was like 42 shark cages off to the side that they were re-rigging and tightening up. And anyway, I bought bought this truck, and every weekend I'd planned during the week the excursion, and we'd go out and we traveled all over Southern Africa, Namibia, Botswana, all the parts of South Africa in this truck. And I just felt like, there was a great opportunity to fill the gap between Land Rover Defenders that were selling for $20,000 and $30,000 that were not going to work for anybody, and they were, just really horribly put together. And then the new fully refurbished vehicles that we're selling for $200,000. Like, there's some middle ground there. So our focus has been to do. So we're a bespoke builder. We do roughly 25 builds a year.
Cool.
Yeah, and we customize everything for the client. Every single part of the build is designed in conjunction with them. And it takes us roughly a year to do a build, and we spread the payments out like building a house, so that you're not paying for something that hasn't been completed yet. And we've really done well with it, because we're able to save our clients on average about 30% on their build, and that ultimately on some of these higher end builds translates to $50,000 or $60,000. But it's people want what their friends don't have in that world, and we cater to a client that has the means. It's not their daily driver, it's their third or fourth
Fun.
call.
Yeah.
But we really rebuild the entire thing. We do everything from original engine restorations all the way up to the new GM LT1 8-speed automatic with 600 horsepower. So just kind of, but the company's called Classic Overland. You just go to classicoverland.com, and you can see a lot of the same story behind Kudu there, because it was all tied in together. I mean, it was in that Defender that I was traveling out to a place to camp out with my wife and grill out around the fire and enjoy being outdoors. And so it's very connected.
No, that's great. No, it looks. I was looking at the website, and I had no idea that was one of your things that you're tied. But they look really cool. It looks like you can go over anything with that thing.
Yeah, they're really awesome. They're really awesome.
um, yeah. Are you? I guess for the rest of the year, you probably travels. Are you just trying to get back to South Africa? at some
Yeah,
point?
we are. We're hoping to get back there for Christmas. So we'll see how that goes. I've got to do, like I said, my this course of becoming a certified field guide in Africa. You have essentially a 50-day um, active piece of the lesson that you have to go out with certified guides and take them on a tour and talk to them about
That's
the
cool.
ecosystems and the biomes and the climate. And when you're looking at rock formations, why do these rocks attract the kudu? And why are the lions then following the kudu to this area? And then what are the minerals and the soils and all this stuff? And so I've got to go do that for about 50 days at some point. I've got to find time to do it. I'm hoping to do it next summer, so that it works out with our children being out of school. But
Is poaching a big deal? Is that
it's massive.
it
Yeah,
is? So it is
yeah,
like what you hear about? Yeah.
it's horrible. We've got a partnership with someone that owns the third largest number of rhinos in fenced areas that are they're free roaming, but they're fenced. So it's kind of there's really no area in South Africa anymore that's
Yeah.
not fenced, but it could be 200,000 acres,
Right, right.
and they're spending somewhere around $50,000 a month in security to try to keep these animals alive, and they're losing 2 to 3 a month.
Oh,
It's
man.
amazing, and it's just all a joke. And that's a big part of our story, and we haven't been able to dial that in for people because we want to focus on some of the things that we are building in the brand and
Sure.
in the cooking experience and all that. But ultimately, from a personal standpoint, I'm really motivated around the sustainability of the charcoal and protecting these animals and things that are really shouldn't be happening and are. And it's a top down situation because with rhino horn you've got probably you know last I heard was like 2 to 300,000 tons of rhino horn that's been cut off of by farmers that are ready to implement and put into the economy so that it drives down the price and there's no need to go and kill an animal because it grows like fingernails. It's a different, people think it's like keratin, but it's not. But it grows like fingernails. So you can harvest these. You don't have to take it from the animal. You can cut them off and they'll grow back in a year and you cut them off
Oh, I
again.
had
It's
no
like,
idea.
yeah. So we've got hundreds of thousands of tons of rhino horn that we can send to Asia for them to do whatever they want with because it's just the fact that it's in the black market that people want it.
Hmm.
And the government won't legalize the trade. And why? For what purpose? And who is ultimately getting paid for that to, stay the way it is? It makes absolutely no sense.
Hmm.
And I think it'll happen one day. But until then, they're either one, cutting off the rhino horn in advance to save the rhino, but the poacher doesn't know from 230 yards that how much rhino horn he can harvest, and he doesn't care, right?
Right.
Because it might be his only way out because he's been starving for the last 30 years. And if he can just get one horn, he can go live a life that he's dreamed about. And it's so sad. It's sad for the poachers. It's sad for the people protecting these animals, and it's obviously horrible for the animals. So
So
it's a no-win situation.
so you find the poachers is more of desperation and
Total
they're not
desperate.
like skilled, what you imagine kind of thing.
No, they're starving.
Yeah.
They're sick and tired of living a destitute life of which there's no way out, and this is their chance. And if I die in an effort to do this, then so what? Because I'd rather die than live the life that I'm living right now. So it's really unfortunate.
Yeah, I mean, that's very similar to, even in Iraq, people who are so desperate and if they don't have food, if they don't have a job, food, you can get a lot of bad things happening. Part of the reason why I thought the Iraq war got so bad is when we decided to fire after we invaded Iraq, and we decided to fire most of the police unit and military commanders. Well, you just fired close to 1 million people, well-trained people who have no jobs and no way to support. And then after, some time passed, they got really mad, and that's when the looting happened. And then that's where they started listening to Crazy Joe or Crazy, whoever, and then that sounds about right. And then it just becomes a repetitive cycle, because then they just tell their person or the next person they see. So yeah, it comes down to desperation, and I think a lot of people, when we hear poaching, we think like it's some professionals, yeah, or like some underground organization.
Professional somewhere in that chain, but the guy that they point to say go there and go get that, he's desperate, and it's so sad. And people would be shocked to know that there are plenty of rhino in this world in certain places that are being kept alive. Like, we're not going to lose the rhino from the face of the earth, but I don't want to have to go to Austin, Texas to see a rhino.
Yeah, I know.
Right?
Exactly.
I want to go to the rhino's home and to see him flourish there and her flourish there, and her have the opportunity to naturally share this earth with us. And so, it's an ongoing thing. And when if you want to do any sort of story on anything like that, we can put that together, because it's something that's really important to me, and I've got relationships with the people over there that are right in the middle of it.
I would love to do that. I'd be down. Well, thanks, Stebin. I appreciate it. You taking your time, being on here.
Thank you so much, and thanks for sharing our story and enjoying our product, and just telling everyone that this is something that is more than just a grill. And until they get it, they really don't understand that. And then after a few cooks, all of a sudden it's just, they get it. They're like, okay, this is what this is all about. And we're really excited about how America's receiving the Kudu and what we're trying to impart on our little piece of the world. And thanks for putting this together and letting me come on and share our story.
Absolutely, yeah. I love to do another one down the road, or maybe we'll do one in South Africa or something like that.
Perfect. Cool. We'd love it.
All right. Thanks.
All right. Take care.